So, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to another market recap. Today is going to be a very nice one to see, and one that I think everybody's going to love because we finally got an answer to pretty much the elephant that was yesterday. The elephant was Amazon. What is Amazon going to do, and will Amazon pretty much save the market? So, that is where we are at right now. We are at that point that we want to know if, is this it? Will Amazon save it? Personally, I said that Amazon's earnings were pretty much gonna say, where tech may move next. But at the end of the day, that's exactly what we got. So just because we had an explosive move just like that, you have to remember why. So Amazon absolutely crushed their earnings per share. They had a really good, quarter and whatnot, but they did lower their guidance. So again, all these tech companies are lowering the guidance. And personally, I think that this is gonna be, another Google fiasco. Gap up after earnings, and then possibly fade out the next day. So let's see if this happens, if it does or not. But first, let's talk about the indices and overnight action, and then we'll check out the equity charts and see what happened on Google after earnings, right? So first things off, SPY. We saw that beautiful move yesterday, by Facebook, which pretty much tanked the Nasdaq and also dragged SPY down with it. As you can see per this chart right here, right? Once we draw a golden pocket, technically we were already ready for that dump, right? Just by the close. We closed right at the golden pocket on SPY and then gapped down into this beautiful move right here. And this was just absolutely beautiful, right? It was a nice technical trade. If you would have literally swung puts based off this, then you made some pretty decent money today. By the open, you would have probably walked away because you were up a nice amount of money. So that's where we're at with SPY. After Amazon's fiasco, SPY's I got around 451.26. So more or less we're around here, right? So again, it was nothing too crazy. It wasn't like the Qs that, remember, we were around here, and then look at where we pretty much opened that. So it wasn't the same crazy reaction. We're gonna look at our moving averages. We are now inside of this 5-10 day cloud. We lost our 150 days, so we pretty much reclaimed that, and again are pinned against the 20-day on the daily. So anything can go. Remember, tomorrow is NFP report, which is going to be a very, very important report, right? It happens the first week of the month, the first Friday. Always happens. This is not, rocket science or something that's new for everybody. This literally always happens every month. So let's take a look at the Qs. The Qs, in the other hand, had the most beautiful gap down that could have possibly happened. And here's why. So we pretty much, again, I was saying yesterday, we reclaimed our 200-day. We turned it into support, right? When we saw the little washout from the Qs. It wasn't even a washout with how choppy it was. But we saw that move, and then you saw that pretty much the Qs looked like they were okay. But I mentioned I did not like that we were still below the 50% retracement. So just seeing that, and then, Facebook absolutely just completely shitting the bed. We got a gap down into the 5-10 day cloud, and then we had a close today below the 10-day, right? So Amazon's earnings pretty much gave us a nice move on the Qs and pretty much put us right here. So all we did was we reclaimed the 5 and 10 day, but we still are not here, right? We're still not at that 200-day. When we look at the weekly, right? Look at so far what we rejected off on the weekly. Right now, we are going to be above this 50-day EMA and SMA, but we're still below this cloud. Our trending clouds that dictate the trend, we already had a cross to the downside, and we're still below that on the weekly. And on the monthly, we are below our cloud, which I spoke about this once. I said, this cloud, we have not been below this on the monthly ever since, I think, COVID, pretty much. Right? So something to keep in mind. Personally, I don't think we are still out of the waters when it comes to tech. I think we just had a how can I say, things just basically came out at the same time, right? So everything started happening together. Earnings season got tied up with pretty much the market sentiment, and then the Fed meeting and all this. So it's going to be very interesting to see where we go once all this ER stuff is over. Once big tech is done with their numbers, and then it's just market sentiment, which the market sentiment, again, and I'm going to keep reminding this, interest rate hike on the March meeting, People are looking at a 50 basis point. Some of the Fed members are even saying that we might see a hike to pre-pandemic levels. So this is getting crazy at this point, right? Getting absolutely crazy. But as day traders, let's just go on day by day and see what happens. Whatever happens, happens. We're just gonna trade the charts, right? So moving on, let's take a look at overnight futures and how they behave. So overnight futures, right? We had a chop fest. Personally, I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna keep saying it. We had a chop fest. I said this to the Discord members. I told this to everybody. We had pretty much a shitty range to trade at, right? So this is after Facebook, right? We had, again, as I told you guys, overnight support right here. We pretty much just, once we got into that like 8:30 more or less, when New York was open already, we let it go. We came down, and then we just started playing again. 9:30 ping pong, just up and down, up and down, up and down. I was actually looking to go short on the Nasdaq at 9:30, but I wanted a retest of this trend line, and I never got it. And this is important. I will enter early when I want to, right? But there are times that I just don't feel comfortable, and I really wanted to see that trend line just because I've seen things just break out or whatever it is, and also the Nasdaq had gapped down very significant, right? So that's just how it was. I actually ended up trading the Dow, which was a whole other, not this one, sorry. It was a whole other mess on its own, right? Again, support was pretty much given, and then played around, let it go. But I never got that move. I never got that move into support, right? Just this little trend line that all this little back and forth, but then look at all this, all this little tricky action that would have made it very difficult for somebody. Like for me personally, I wouldn't have wanted to hold this because of how choppy it was. Even if, I was using a target of this low, look how long it pretty much took to get there. Look at all this fluctuation that I would have had to deal with, because looking at this, if you show me this looks like we're bouncing support, right? Little support range right here. If we zoom out, you see this. So it looks like we were bouncing till we finally, gave it up. And even then, when we made a new low, we could not hold it. Went back here, didn't even retest the line, and just completely washed out. So it was one of those, again, scenarios where overnight told us that it was going to be choppy, and that's exactly what the open was. Looking at SPY, looking at Qs, exact same thing. And again, I'm going to keep saying this to you guys till you guys feel, or literally all of you most likely that are watching, DM me saying, thank you for your recommendation on looking at futures. It has definitely improved my trading. Keep an eye on futures. It will definitely help with your decision making, your biasness, whatever it is. It will even help you decide if to trade or not to trade, right? So that's just, I guess we're done with this now. I'm going to move on into individual equity names, because I want to show you guys real quick before we end this. I want to talk about Google and what happened on Google right now. Before I go, I start talking. I'm not saying that this exactly could happen to Amazon, right? But it's something to consider, right? So Google earnings gapped up, pretty crazy move. We pretty much opened around here, and then we just pulled back. Next day, retest, pulled back, right? Again, not trying to say that this may happen to Amazon, but it could be something that we got to take into consideration, right? Tomorrow is the NFP report. The report comes out at 8:30. So again, once that report is out, we will pretty much have a bit of clearance into the next 2 weeks, more or less, right? So with that being said, guys, I wish you all an amazing rest of your evening, and I am excited for tomorrow. Hopefully we have a good report, nothing that will lead to choppiness or, just slow action. I just want some direction, one side, whatever it is. Even if it's small range trading, I just care for it to be a trend-based range that we can profit out of it. Not this whole green, red, green, red, green, red. That shit's annoying, and you guys know it is. Everybody knows it is. My 4-year-old nephew knows it is. All right. So let's just hope for the best. I wish you all a wonderful rest of your evening, and take care. And I'll see you guys on the next one.